Okay, I make a motion to go into executive session for legal advice as to the Recreation Commission bylaws. And the town clerk is excused, and in executive session, we'll have the town attorney and the Recreation Commission.
I'll second that motion.
Supervisor Brody?
Yes.
Councilpersons Doyle?
Yes.
Gutierrez?
Yes.
Blackman?
Yes.
Reveler? And the
Yes.
time now is 6:33.
Ian, can you clarify the difference between being a full-time 40-hour employee and a 32-hour employee in terms of, are there any differences in benefits or anything else to do with one's job?
My understanding is within the handbook, the benefits and everything don't change. It's just the hours requirement for a full-time employee was changed to 40 hours. So anything less than that would not be considered full-time.
But there's
It
nothing
wasn't changed to 40, it already was 40. The only change in there is to clarify what part-time is.
Why don't we have this conversation when we get to the matter on approval, because then we can go through the red line together.
It's not a red line, you got the final one.
I know, but we got the red line by email, so we could talk about what
It wasn't
changed.
actually read, which I made a comment on, but okay.
Well, you had the red line before, you got the final.
I think it's worth a discussion when we get to that point, so.
Okay, is there any other public comment? Town clerk report?
Good evening. So I'm going to present to the town board this evening my tax collector report. To date, we've collected $6,495,127.79, penalty being $9,196.36. Just wanted to also advise the public that I have sent out 126 duplicate bills. So that means I am down to, from our over 2,000 to speaking to the 126. Those bills have been mailed out. They're on golden bright paper. Please look for them in your mailbox. I do have to have payment and response here at the local level no later than May 31st. Anything after that, they are going to be collected by the Commissioner of Finance, and I cannot accept your payment here. So if there is any opportunity that you are able to make those payments for this year, please do so. You may do so by coming here to the town hall with cash, check, or charge. You can pay online, again with check or charge. You can leave it in the secured mailbox. You can throw it in the mail. I'm just trying to make every last attempt and opportunity for you to have them paid. Also acknowledging receipt and circulation to the board members, the email that we received from one of our residents, Frank Spano, who also did provide public comment at our last meeting, and he was just following up, and he just asked that I go ahead and remind each of you of that. May, this week, is Town Clerk Appreciation Week, and what a better week to be here. And I know the notice went out and it was shared with the board. The supervisor's office was kind enough to share that. So I have completed and I am recertified with the certification of the designation of my RMC, which is Registered Municipal Clerk. You guys know I like to keep up with my education and following all of the various requirements to keep up with that. So it is always a pleasure to serve our community here, and education is true key to any success. So I know there are various departments that require mandatory education. I do happen to have those titles that do require mandatory education in my professional and personal life, and I keep up with it, not only to continue to sit here and do the best job that I can, but I believe it helps me be the strong role model that I am to my children. So with month also being Mother's Day, it's just that little thing I like to, toot on all of us strong moms out there in the world that, it's for us to be the leaders that we are, not just, in our homes, but also in our professional careers. So to all of us, I celebrate all of us for the work that we do throughout the year. And with Mother's Day right around the corner, our Amenia Fire Company on Saturday, May 13th, they are doing their chicken dinner deal. So they're having a barbecue chicken. It's going to be takeout only. If you are interested, please call 845-418-8633. And you can order there. Or if you want to stop by the town hall, we do have some tickets still available to purchase. It's going to be super easy. All you got to do is come by the firehouse at 3 o'clock and you can pick up your meal. That we are asking for pre-orders only, so please let us know if you are interested.
Could you
Is
repeat
it
the
3 to
date?
what time?
It's 3 to 6, and
6.
it's Saturday, May 13th. And should you not be able to stop in the town hall this week, Monday through Thursday, 9 to 3, you can also stop and see me at Community Day. I will be up at the Weewotuck High School with our ambulance that morning. So anytime between, I'll be there like 10 to 1, I can still sell those tickets. So I'm really trying to get everybody to support our barbecue. Chicken, Sean and his entire team are excellent at making this meal, so come support the Amenia Fire Company. And Michelle is always working. She's one of those strong moms out there. She is doing the Lake George Luncheon Boat Trip. It's going to be Tuesday, August 22nd. It's $51 per person, and with the bus and all of that good information. So if you guys are interested, we do have the flyers available at Town Hall, or you can call Michelle at area code 845-877-9430. And I did attend that trip previously. It is a really fun trip. Lake George is always beautiful. The boat ride is always great. So, yes, you don't have to be a senior for those that are curious. Special invitation, I'm almost there. But all kidding aside, that does conclude the town clerk's report.
Is your report done?
Yeah. Everything else is going to go to the next meeting, like we discussed.
Resolution number?
We are starting with number 59 this evening.
Authorizing a license agreement with Dutchess Community College for English as a Second Language program. Whereas the Town of Amenia Town Board has determined that it is in the best interests of the town for the public to have courses of instruction available for learning English as a second language. Whereas Dutchess Community College can provide such a course at the Amenia Town Hall, provided the town makes available to them one classroom large enough to safely accommodate up to 25 students and one instructor for 6 hours per week for ESL on Monday and Wednesdays between the hours of 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. for the period from June 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023. Whereas such a classroom is available at the Amenia Town Hall and is not currently being used by the town for town business, whereas the town board desires to provide DCC with a license to use one classroom within the town hall building for the purpose of providing ESL courses to members of the public, whereas the town board wishes to authorize the town supervisor to enter into a license agreement in the form attached hereto with DCC to allow DCC to use one classroom within the Amenia Town Hall for the purpose of offering an ESL course to members of the public for no more than 6 hours per week for each course on Monday and Wednesdays between the hours of 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. for the period from June 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023. And whereas the authorization to enter into a license agreement for the use of a classroom in Amenia Town Hall is a Type 2 action that is exempt from seeker review. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. The recitations set forth above are incorporated in this resolution as it fully set forth and adopted herein. The town board hereby authorizes the supervisor to enter into and execute the license agreement with DCC in substantially the same form attached hereto and any documents necessary or incidental to effectuate said license agreement. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Supervisor Prody?
Yes.
Councilpersons Doyle?
Yes.
Gutierrez?
Yes.
Blackman?
Yes.
Revelar?
Yes.
Resolution for employee handbook update approval. Do you want to discuss that before or after we do the resolution for discussion?
We can discuss it. So I do have the red line here that you sent. Was it
A while back?
December 30th? Is that the red line?
Yes.
Yeah. The
You
summary
also have a list of what other things that were added that I sent you.
in a Word doc, right? And the majority of the changes involve changes in response to the marijuana law. But I think the part that is of interest for discussion is the part-time employee definition. Let's scroll down to that section. Part-time employee, section 202. So it used to say, for purposes of this employee handbook, the term part-time employee will mean an employee who is scheduled on a regular and ongoing basis to work 20 hours or less per week. So the definition previously was part-time employee was 20 hours or less. And the change strikes 20 hours or less and replaces it with less than 40 hours per week. So basically what we're saying is anyone who does not work 40 hours a week is classified as a part-time employee. And so we'll get to the benefits in a second because I understand that that's separate. But what are the implications of this change aside from benefits? Is there like a county, like a civil employee
I
guide?
don't know what you're asking me. Whoever, I mean, anyone who's,
So,
everybody, all the part-time people who work 15 hours or more are eligible for benefits.
understood. I'm not talking about benefit. Why did we make this change? Maybe that's a better way to ask this question. So
Because it wasn't clear.
what it used to say was a part-time employee was anyone who worked 20 hours or less. And now we're defining that as less than 40 hours per week.
Right.
So was it unclear because a part-time employee was defined at less than 20 hours per week and a full-time employee was defined as somebody who works a minimum of 40 hours per week, and we just had this gap between,
Yes, we did.
okay.
It's
That-
for clarification. But it doesn't affect benefits at all. The only thing it affects is whether or not, the amount of holidays you get and sick time.
Well, I guess my question would be, since the majority of the staff works 32 hours, because town hall is open Monday through Thursday, so 8 hours times 4 is 32. I guess the question is, I mean, if that's the kind of the rules of town hall in terms of what the operating hours are, it still seems strange to me to say a full-time employee is 40 hours or more when virtually everyone here is only able to work 32 because of the town hall operating hours.
Actually, there's 2 employees who work Fridays, who
Okay.
work 40 hours.
Well, let me then rephrase that. The majority of town hall staff is only able to work 32 hours maximum because the building is only, or the way that the
It doesn't have anything to do with the building inspector. He actually works another job on Friday. He works for the town of Northeast.
Right, but I don't think anyone else, I mean, my understanding is, for instance, your office staff, and people in the, Dawn and her staff, and,
My office staff are 20 hours.
okay. The thing that just seems strange to me about this is that if it seems like the maximum number of hours the staff could typically work based on the number of days the town hall is active is 32, it just seems...
32 for 2 employees.
There are only 2 employees that work 32 hours?
Yes.
Wow. And then you said that there were some that worked 40, is that right?
Katie and Judy Westfall work 40 hours.
Okay.
And my two secretaries work 20 hours. The bookkeeper works, I think, 24. So we're all over the map with part-time people. The only 2 full-time people in the town hall are the recreation director and the planning board secretary.
Okay.
And then all of the highway people are all 40 hours.
Right. And
But there's, I mean, not everybody is 32 hours. There's 2 people.
okay.
2 people for 20.
I think the concern is that the town used to consider 32 full-time, although I'm not seeing that reflected in the prior version of the,
It was never
It was
considered.
never
32
considered.
was never considered full-time in the employee handbook. You can look through all the prior ones, and
I'm
it's not
seeing,
there.
yeah, I'm not seeing it in the prior draft, for sure.
And what's the difference then in you said holidays are different depending
Sick
on whether
time,
you're
you
full-time
said?
or not?
Yes.
And retirement?
No,
No, so just holidays and
Sick time.
vacation? And sick time?
sick time and vacation.
Okay.
They are, basically, they're, for part-time people, their sick time and their vacation time is a formula based on the amount of hours they work.
May I add something?
Oh, look, there you are.
One
Sure.
reason I did bring this up is I was hired off the civil service list through the county. So basically, I fall under some county rules. And the county rules for part-time definitely say half of what a full-time person in the town work is part-time. So in that case, 20 hours would be considered part-time. Anything more basically isn't. That's how Dutchess County personnel reads.
Actually, you were hired at 30 hours a week part-time. That's what the Dutchess
No,
County
actually, I
personnel.
can show you the paper. You put
I gave you
removed
a
from-
copy of
Yeah,
it.
it said removed from part-time for 30 hours a week.
40 hours is a full-time employee.
Exactly. In the paper back in 15, you gave me, said, removed from part-time deputy building inspector at 30 hours for building inspector 1. It says removed from part-time at that point.
Well, our employee handbook has always said 40 hours,
Since, yeah, probably around,
since the beginning of time.
no, because there was a person who was 30 hours once before what was considered part-time when I was here the first time. So, or full-time, the deputy clerk.
I don't, thank you for the comment. I don't want it to be a specific, like, personnel matter that we talk about here, but I think it would be helpful for me to understand the implications of what we're doing here. Specifically, like, how many sick days,
Well, it tells you right in there.
well, I'm looking at something else now, but yeah,
And those regulations, I mean, and the way the formula is set up in the employee handbook, it's not set up per person, it's set up by how many hours you are scheduled to work.
sorry, I don't follow that, sorry.
Like if you work 20 hours a week, then how much vacation time and sick time you get is based on a formula, based on how long, what your workday is.
I'm reading the sick time section here, but I think it would be helpful for me just to understand, like, is it all of the implications of that change in definition, without having to.
There aren't any implications. I mean, people are still getting medical benefits if you work 15 hours or more.
Okay, so I'm just searching for full-time here, so it looks like rest breaks are section 502. There's a
It would
rest
make-
break that full-time employees are entitled to. And
Yes,
part-time, I mean, I'm doing this on the fly here, but I would prefer not to. Can we just have this summarized? Like,
have what summarized.
the implications of the reclassification of an employee from full-time to part-time, based on that hour definition.
Full-time is 40 hours. It always has been 40 hours for every employee handbook that we've ever had. The part that was confusing was the part that said, that talked about part-time employees.
Right. It's bereavement leave. Okay, I don't really, it seems like we're just correcting a very simple clerical error.
Well, we're providing clarity. I mean, the way it was, part-time was described in there wasn't clear, when actually anybody working less than 40 hours is part-time.
And greater than 15 receive benefits.
Yes. We offer benefits to anybody who's eligible.
Okay.
The difference is the number of days that they get, Damien. So for an example, if you're 40 hours, you get 12 holidays. If you're part-time, you get 6 paid holidays. If you're for your vacation, the same would be if you're working 40 hours, you get your, you get your full 5 days. But if you're only working part-time, you would only get, say, 3 full days or 2.5 full days. The other difference is full-time employees also get continuous years of service, and with continuous years of service, it increases their vacation leave.
What page
So
is that on?
I'm looking at the 800, their
Okay.
employee benefits. And I think that that's, I'm not going to speak for him, but I have reason to believe that that might be what we're actually, where this conversation is being contributed from. It's like who gets what days of
Time off.
paid time off. It would also follow suit for sick leave. So if you're 40 hours, you're getting 40 hours of sick. If you're part-time and you're working 20, you get 20. If you're part-time working 15, you get 15.
Well, that seems clear.
Section
And then
812.
when you're part-time, you don't get, like specifically with sick time, you're not getting this, it's not accruing the same. But with part-time, you do get sick time. You do get,
Yeah, one of the things that I added that I didn't put on the list is that part-time people, if they had bereavement, they just had to take the time off at no pay. So the change I made in there, that they would be able to use their sick or vacation for bereavement, for part-time, because they didn't have that in there before. And also, one of the things that Jeff Travers told me, who actually, who does our employee handbook, said that, that most of his clients do not give part-time employees holidays, where we do give some holidays, because the money's in the budget anyway. It isn't like, I'm going to be over budget if, we pay a part-time employee for
We're also
holidays.
typically not open on holidays, but
But
Because
what the
basically, we
but-
figured the budget at the full weeks worked for the full year. When we generally do our budget installments, I'm 4 days a week at 8 hours a day, and that's what's put in the budget. So, it's already budgeted for the time.
So, we actually, our town actually is, generous with, offering some holidays to the part-time employees. And because what they usually do, if they are not eligible to have a holiday, they'll work extra time on the other days they do work in order to make up those hours so they get a full paycheck. And I allow them to do that.
Okay.
Okay. I only have one last question, which is Section 812. This might be a question for Ian. It's regarding the state retirement eligibility. Employment is considered full-time unless the employee works less than 30 hours per week or less than the standard number of hours for full-time employment as established by the employer for this position. So I'm assuming that would mean the 40 hours in this case.
I would make that same assumption. However, my concern with the vacation and the sick time being reduced on this. Is your mic on?
No.
Oh, shoot, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
What about it?
So, if they were originally hired with said benefits and now we are reducing those benefits, that may run us into an issue.
We're not reducing anything.
Well, we'd be reducing their vacation and sick, right?
No,
They would stay the same?
yes. We're not changing any of the vacation and sick. Whatever hours they're working, their vacation and sick is based on those hours. It's not being reduced.
Oh, okay.
But you're saying if an employee is reclassified as from a full-time employee to a part-time employee as a consequence of this change, there would be a reduction in benefits. Is that what you're saying?
It sounds to me like there could be. There could be, because I'm hearing that if you had a full-time position before, and now it's being reduced to what would be a part-time position, then it sounds to me, based on the calculation, that
It always was part-time.
So are you aware, Victoria, of...
But I don't know how they were, what classification they were hired under.
Because you're talking specifics
I-
about a person, not.
I would agree. I don't want to talk specific about a person, but
I'm talking in very general terms. If individuals are hired at a classification, then we're reducing.
Could
that.
we just find that out and just table this until we have an answer on that?
Sure.
An answer on what?
An answer on whether it impacts anything, in terms of an employee's
classification.
classification. In other words, whether saying specifically 40 hours a week, if someone works 32, which is the 4 days the building is open, I'd like to be sure that that doesn't impact any of the employees.
How would it impact them if they're already scheduled to work those hours?
I think what Leo's saying is that today, May 4th, we have a bunch of full-time and part-time employees. By making this change, are any of those employee classifications going to change?
No,
No. No one's going to change.
no.
So anyone who's full-time now is still full-time, and anyone who's
Yes.
part-time now is still part-time.
Yes.
Okay.
And what they're already scheduled to get is they're going to continue to get. Nobody's going to get less than what they're already getting now.
I understand. Do you still want to table it? For,
You know, I'm certainly willing to vote and move on. I mean, we have Victoria's assurance that no one is going to have any less in the way of benefits or vacation days or anything based on that
It's
classification.
whatever
if that's
there's, whatever we have them on the books for,
just remains.
just remains.
May I just add one more thing?
Sure.
Up to April 11th of last year, I was getting full-time benefits, which were taken away last April. And then I became part-time.
I'm sorry, based on working 32 hours?
Yes,
Was full-time?
I
And that
was
was an error.
for 7 years.
I don't think you had it for
This
7 years.
particular conversation, I
Yeah,
would
this,
recommend.
I
that we-
would
Well, yes,
agree.
I would be
This-
willing to go
this
to
conversation
executive
should
session
be
and talk
discussed
But right
in
now-
executive session.
You are getting benefits for part-time, correct?
Understood, yes.
Okay.
And I think for the-
My point is taken. Nothing will change.
Okay.
Okay. I think we should move on this.
If
and
you want to
move
table
on.
it, we'll table it. Fine with me.
Table it?
I think you should table the resolution, and there should be questions that the board members have, because there seems to be a number of questions should be expressed, and we can consult our consultant who drafted it, number one, and number two,
Consult him about what?
whatever questions the board has. I mean, Damien certainly has questions, Leo has some questions. There's questions from the audience at this point. I think that it would be my suggestion to the board.
Basically, the consultant does what we, what we request, other than what there are legal changes.
I think we should table it. Do I need a motion? Do I need to make a motion to do that?
You would have to make a motion to table.
Move to table this.
I'll second that.
Supervisor Brody?
No?
Councilpersons Doyle?
Yes.
Gutierrez?
Yes.
Blackman?
Yes.
Revlar?
Yes.
We won't be doing the resolution for lead and copper inventory, because we don't have the funds yet.
We will not be.
No, we won't. So to be, continue to be tabled.
I'm sorry, Victoria, the lead and copper inventory, wasn't that the grant that you and Marco had
We haven't
applied for?
received it.
Oh, it just isn't in hand yet, okay,
And we can't do the contract till we have it in hand.
okay,
It's in the pipeline.
okay. That
We're
makes me
being
feel
told.
better. Okay,
No pun intended.
Resolution,
No pun intended,
would this
you're
be
right.
61, Dawn?
60? Because we never sent
It was never identified.
It was never identified, so 60.
Would the next
60.
be
The next one's
61?
60.
Or this would be
60.
60?
That's what we're talking about.
Okay.
We want to make sure we're all on the same-
Authorizing the submission of a grant application to the New York State Department of State Local Waterfront Revitalization Program. Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Amenia is seeking to submit a grant application to the New York State Department of State Local Waterfront Revitalization Program, LWRP, whereas the grant application would be for funding to complete a local flood analysis, which would include an engineering feasibility study that would provide a comprehensive flood risk assessment, an analysis of alternatives to identify the most cost-effective solutions for accomplishing community goals related to climate resilience, recreational access, and habitat restoration along the Wasaya Creek. Whereas the grant program would pay up to 75% of the total project costs, up to a maximum of $100,000, with a 25% local match to be provided by either a monetary contribution or in-kind services from the town. Whereas it intends to meet the 25% local match with in-kind services, with any monetary balance being paid from engineers CE budget line 14404.01 if necessary. Whereas pursuant to 6 NYCRR Part 617(5)C24, the preparation of a feasibility study which does not commit the town to undertake, fund, or approve any action listed in 6 NYCRR Part 617 as a Type 1 or a listed action, is deemed a Type 2 action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, therefore not subject to review under seeker. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. The recitations set forth are incorporated in this resolution as it fully set forth and adopted herein. 2, the Town Board of the Town of Amenia hereby authorizes the town supervisor to submit a grant application to the New York State Department of State Local Waterfront Revitalization Grant Program, and to complete all documentation necessary for the grant application. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Supervisor Purdy?
Yes.
Councilpersons Doyle?
Yes.
Gutierrez?
Yes.
Blackman?
Yes.
Redlord?
Yes.
Resolution number 62 of 2023, approving the...
One.
61. Approving the contingencies for accepting the Community Development Block Grant, whereas the Town Board of the Town of Amenia, by Resolution Number 76, 2022, authorized a letter of intent for the intended use of the Community Development Block Grant funds for fiscal year 2023, and set a public hearing for community input regarding the application of the grant funds. Whereas on November 17, 2022, a public hearing was held at the Town Hall, Town of Amenia, 4988 Route 22, Amenia, New York, 12501. Whereas on or about November 21st, 2022, the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development, DCD, PD, approved the town's letter of intent to apply for $150,000 grant to acquire a 3.9-acre parcel and rehabilitate the vacant single-family home located on said parcel to be used for affordable housing. Whereas on or before December 9, 2022, the Town of Amenia submitted an application for the CDBG to the DCD PD. Whereas on or about April 5, 2023, the DCD PD issued a grant award with a number of contingencies which are annexed here to, made a part hereof. Whereas on about April 6, 2023, the Town Board of the Town of Amenia authorized attorney to the town to negotiate the contingencies set forth in the April 5, 2023 letter from DCD PD. Whereas as a result of said negotiations, the DCD PD reissued a revised grant letter on April 26, 2023, which is annexed here too, made a part hereof. Whereas the DCD PD is requiring a formal resolution from the Town of Amenia accepting the revised award letter and contingency set forth therein. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. The recitations set forth above are incorporated in this resolution as it fully set forth and adopted herein. The Town Board of the Town of Amenia has reviewed the April 26, 2023 revised award letter from the DCD PD, fully understands the contingencies that must be satisfied prior to any award of grant funds from the Community Development Block Grant, that the Town Board of the Town of Amenia hereby accepts all the contingencies set forth in April 26, 2023 revised award letter from DCD PD as it fully set forth herein, that the town clerk is hereby directed to provide a copy of this resolution to DCD PD.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Discussion? There are multiple contingencies. One of which is subdivision of the property, dividing the portion to be used for affordable housing that is proposed for use of the wastewater treatment facility before or along with the purchase and closing of the property. We don't know what the cost of the property is or if the owner of the property is even interested in subdividing the property. So I don't really see how that contingency could possibly be met.
Well, isn't the point of these contingencies to see if we can meet them? I mean, to make an effort to meet them?
Nobody on the board knows how much this property is. I mean, one of the things I checked on when I spoke with legal counsel at the Association of Towns, that someone either from the town board or should be authorized to negotiate with the property owner, and that has not happened. So the town board is pretty much in the dark as far as the cost of this property. and also what the cost will be for all these contingencies, including asbestos and lead paint. I mean, we can get estimates, but we have no idea of what the remediation is going to cost. And we also need to know, who's doing the negotiating, because it certainly isn't on behalf of the town board.
I thought we had authorized
I thought we-
Ian to speak and to help with the negotiations. Did we not do
And I
that?
thought we also authorized a particular purchase price earlier in this process.
No, we didn't. There's no resolution.
Well, there isn't a resolution, but we approved the pursuing of this property based on calculations and that were submitted to Dutchess County that list a specific purchase price. And we don't know for sure that they will accept that, but Charlie has been speaking to the owner for a year and a half now and trying to, keep them.
But Charlie did not have authorization from the town board to negotiate the
Well,
price.
Victoria, I mean, if we're going to.
And we also need to know,
Victoria, how would you
from what
suggest
I am
getting around that,
speaking,
Victoria?
I am speaking.
You are.
that, Charlie is also a real estate broker with the Kokorin Group. I mean, was he negotiating as part of this group?
Victoria, he happens to have expertise which this town board could use in light of some of the other deals we've made, like the decision about how much, accepting the amount that Silo Ridge paid per unit of affordable housing. So I think the fact that he's knowledgeable about this and has been spending a year and a half on it is just, the level of gratitude and hostility the lack of gratitude and the kind of hostility you project on this whenever this comes up is really infuriating. I mean, this is why things don't get done in the town of Amenia, because no one will see beyond this and figure out how to actually accomplish things rather than figure out how to block them.
One of our most important responsibilities is oversight of the taxpayer money.
We haven't spent any
And-
of that yet. I mean, we haven't bought the house. We haven't bought the land. We haven't done any renovations.
And we're also talking about the risk that the town would be subjected to with this particular, with this house. I mean, we're looking at 21 work items, 3 contingencies, and we have no idea what any of this is going to cost. I'm looking out for the town and the taxpayers. That's my job.
Okay, I am too, in that if we don't have a wastewater treatment system, this town is going to continue to decline. That's been obvious since 1961, and the fact that the town board hasn't managed to make any progress on this in all that time, I find rather annoying, and it makes me very angry. So I think that we have to be willing to take a teeny bit of risk.
A teeny?
It's
teeny.
contingents. I think we have to understand what contingencies mean.
I was going to ask the same question.
I mean, contingent means that not only the county wants to see that all of these can be resolved, they understand there's question marks out there.
And they're not going to give us the money.
And the town understands there's question marks out there. So this doesn't go anywhere if any of these contingencies can't be done. If we can't
Exactly.
subdivide it, if we can't agree on a purchase price. I mean, contingencies
That was a much better explanation, Vicki, thank you.
But
allow for those
we're not going to
questions.
be subdividing.
So if we can't subdivide it, if we can't meet those contingencies, this goes away. The grant goes away, the money goes back to somebody else who can do affordable housing or something. It's clear this is not an easy project, but a lot of work has been done.
And there's been
We
steady
have found
progress.
some possible ways of making this awkward thing work. And we recognize that after 60 years, when I first moved here, literally, they said, we can't do the wastewater because there's no place to put it. There's no place to put it. And I thought, for goodness sake, there's got to be some place in town. And literally, I got a map with all the parcels, a giant map, and we looked and looked and looked for the appropriate place to put a wastewater treatment facility. And it's complicated because you need a stream, you need to be close to the people that you serve, you can't pump it uphill. We found out it costs an extra couple of $1 million. It can't be located in Wassaic, that's too far away, it costs too much money to, there's a lot of problems with every single parcel you look at. This parcel seems to be kind of within a municipality. It's, you know, it's not a fortune. They're not asking for $800,000, which is what the Allen property was. This is an affordable, it seems, possibility. It's located in the right place. It's our one chance to move this needle forward. We have no wastewater ever if you can't find a place to put it. But there are contingencies that say, yes, we understand. There are some unknowns.
This is a grant for affordable housing, just to be
Yeah,
clear.
not for wastewater.
Right?
But-
'Cause I know that we're talking about wastewater. I think part of the reason we
To me-
have a bunch of these contingencies
Yeah.
is because we conflated the two goals when we
They're the
applied.
same. Wastewater will bring
The county's specific
county
reaction to our
will-
initial application
That
was.
house is affordable, yes. That is the reason why we...
Vicky, may I finish, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
The county's initial reaction to our first grant application on this was a noted concern about the proximity of affordable housing, which is what we're applying for a grant for, to our, future intended wastewater facility. And they made us,
But they didn't
made
say
it-
no.
well, what they
They
did
did
say
not
was if
say
you put
no.
wastewater there in the future, we're going to take this grant money back. And so then we went back and forth with them, and that's where the subdivision came in.
So subdivide, that sounds like a great contingency. Let's separate that
That's
parcel.
outside of our control, right?
It's something that people do when they go to buy property. It's not out of our control. We just negotiate it, right? I mean, why would it be out of our control? We haven't bought the parcel. We haven't accepted the grant
We
funds.
can't subdivide a parcel we don't own, right?
It's
So-
part of the negotiation, no? I mean, you just can't just say, I can't do it because you haven't even asked the owner.
Negotiation by whom?
I would suggest that whoever, Victoria, you're the supervisor. So if you thought somebody should be going with Charlie to find out what the purchase price, I think that you would have said, I'll go with Charlie. Charlie, invite me, or
Well,
Ian will
there's no
go.
way I would have done that without a resolution from the board.
So may I just quickly, so nobody has, let me go back to purchase price. The purchase price for a parcel, for this particular parcel, is included in our preliminary engineering report. It was $300,000 there. That was a placeholder. That has always been a number. If any of the town board members would have read that report or been to any of the 6 presentations we've made about that particular project, that's very clear. In the application for this grant, the purchase price that was used was $275,000. That has been distributed to this board multiple times. It is not an unknown number. It's also, although a large number to me, not a large number for a community that doesn't have wastewater and to purchase a parcel of land. We are backing into a particular grant for affordable housing so that we can secure this, but the intent had always been that the single-family home that is vacant on that parcel would be used for affordable housing. Before you today is accepting contingencies for this grant award. You are not signing a grant award letter or agreement. You're only accepting their contingencies. The next phase after this is for us to go and get quotes for curing the items on this contingency list. So we're not committing the town to any money. That is not what this is. There are many off-ramps on this project, and we are on like off-ramp 2 of 12. That's all we're asking for today. Because if you do this, then I and the housing board will go and get quotes to cure these home inspection items that are common in any time you purchase a home that is then inspected and needs to be cured. We have a rehab budget of $114,000 to cure these items. So if we don't come within that range, if you don't feel comfortable with it, then we don't move forward with this grant. Also, whomever the board wants to decide to negotiate this parcel, they can do that. I have had conversations with this owner over the last year plus because it was identified for wastewater. And in that contract of sale, should the board decide to go forward with a contract of sale, can have multiple contingencies that also allow us to get out if the seller agrees. And I think the town would not enter into a contract that wasn't contingent on us being able to walk away from the contract if we didn't get these grant funds. I just stress that this is like just, step 2. Many times to get off, we're not committing any town money to anything.
Charlie, this has been something on my mind for a while. Could this property be sold to another private individual and subdivided by the seller via a contract that we propose to the seller for wastewater?
Sure. I mean, there are no guarantees that this seller is going to sell to us.
He's been patiently waiting for a very long time.
Yeah, so yes, I mean, we have no right over this piece of property.
Well, is he aware that a subdivision has to occur?
The subdivision is something that we will have to undertake ourselves in cooperation with him. My belief is that we will negotiate a price. Let's hope that we get to a price that's agreeable to him. It can't be over $275, so that has to be the price, or something a little less, hopefully, maybe not. And then as a term of our contract with him will be that he works with us to subdivide the parcel, at or about closing, which is what the county has said we would do.
So the county is saying about before or along with the purchase
Yes.
and closing. So in
Yes.
other words, that means that the property owner would have to do the subdivision.
I'm not fluent in all of the steps related to a subdivision of a parcel, but I have seen a number of transactions where parcels are subdivided at closing, or at the same table, it happens the same day, happens a day after. I'm sure that the county would let us take an undertaking if it took another 5 days for us to ultimately subdivide the parcel.
And who would bear the cost of
Well, we would, and
subdivision?
that is in the revised budget that I distributed to the board 2 weeks ago.
Who's we?
I'm sorry, the royal we, Amenia, the town, this particular project.
The taxpayers.
No, this project has a budget that I have given to this board, and it's very frustrating to be a volunteer who spends out so many hours a day on projects like this, that the board does not even review the materials that I send you.
I mean, we talked about the budget in detail the last time around. I don't think it's a matter of items not being reviewed and received. Charlie,
I've reviewed it. I think all of us have looked at it.
In any event,
It's
this
the
is-
risk to the town.
What is the risk of accepting these contingencies, Victoria? Because I can't figure it out.
If it can't be done, it can't be done, and we don't have,
Then we don't get the
we have
grant.
no, yeah,
We
there's
just,
no
the,
going
the, the
forward.
housing board just needs you to let us go to the next step, to get an itemized quotes from contractors, from an attorney. If we have to go back to the surveyor to subdivide and to provide, drawings for that, just let us do that. We cannot do that if you do not pass this resolution tonight.
Leo just proposed a question early on before everything else, and his question was, how do we get around the negotiation of this property?
How do we get around it?
How do we go forward? I mean, we still don't have,
I think the town board needs
purchase
to,
price of the
you
property.
need to give somebody the authority to negotiate. I mean,
Yes.
I would, like, if that is a thing. I mean, I think
is a
that
thing.
everybody nobody's committed anybody to anything yet. I mean, I think we get to this point where it's like, you've nailed
this is
something
like
to the
going
wall.
to the motor vehicle with a form you fill out, and you have to have everything filled out, otherwise they kick you back.
I'm sorry?
Talking about the contingencies.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We have to satisfy these contingencies before we move ahead. The board has to approve this for the county to let this go another step. And if the board doesn't do that, I am really going to be amazed and furious, because it's so obstructionist in terms of actually accomplishing something the town has wanted to do for decades. It gets us a unit of affordable housing that's virtually paid for by, that's almost entirely paid for by grants, and moreover, it secures a property that's the only property that the wastewater committee identified as being workable for a wastewater system. I mean,
I don't think anybody argues that point, and I don't I think we all want to go forward with this, but there's pieces missing, Leo. We can go back how many years, we can say this and that and everything else. But what I'm seeing is there's a few pieces missing. Number one, how much is this property going to cost
Well,
us?
we're not worried about that.
Number
but
two, is the seller really going to
wastewater
sell it to
water
us? Has he agreed to sell it to us? He's working with us, we've talked about it, Charlie's done a tremendous amount of work, obviously, but I don't know if he's going to say yes.
Right.
Well, but
isn't
we
that
have to do all this,
contingency? I mean, we don't,
we have to go down multiple roads at the same time with this.
Let's get Ian to negotiate, get an agreement, go forward.
but then we don't have the county.
We have to do this right now, you're saying?
I'm saying that, that at a certain point, Charlie's been attending virtually every town board meeting for the last year and change, and giving us information and information and information. So this should not be surprising to anyone. It's a very complicated process, but the county is very clear that we will not get the grant unless we meet these terms, and we are not going to buy the property unless we get the grant. So what is the risk? I just do not see what the concern is, Victoria.
Well, you mentioned and I brought this up during the last meeting. I brought it up recently in email. So my major concern is about the sort of way that this process has played out. And it's not without implication or risk. So we mentioned the ARPA money. You just mentioned the Water District. The Water District has incredibly dire capital needs. Had we had a discussion among this board, and then had we had a vote on various ideas in sort of the proper fashion, my recommendation would have been to use our ARPA money to address a lot of those capital. But instead what happened is that we got the cart before the horse a little bit. It was represented to the county that the town was going to use ARPA money in support of this purchase before the town board had a discussion and a vote about
I
it.
think you put together a budget, Damien.
It's
to say
irrelevant.
where you're-
Leo, we had to come back and hustle and vote on it to support the representation that was made about how we were going to use those monies, effectively under duress. Like, we have this grant, it's going to happen, and then there's a lot of drama, and there's a lot of you guys don't care about this and that. Like, remove that, have the process play out appropriately, have people give their input about how things should play out. Don't just, it's always a fire drill every time we get these things.
Because there's rarely a sense of urgency on this board, which is the reason I ran for this board. Things take forever to move anywhere.
Things
and
take
we have
forever
an
when you
owner.
have to listen to other people's perspectives. It's not just like, I want this to happen, and I'm going to push it forward and make it happen by myself. Like, other people may not feel that way.
Well, the
Other
board has
people may.
been going through this step by step, so I don't see how this is different than
I
any of the
have
other
been
steps.
very clear about my concerns with the way that these steps have played out. We don't have to get into that now. We certainly can. But, the fact that this is due, we have to respond to this today?
That's my question. Is there a time limit?
I mean,
Yeah, you look on the next page,
We already
it
got
asks for
extended
you
ones.
to return this acceptance of the grant with contingencies by May 15th.
And
So
it was
our
April
deadline is
28th
May
originally.
15th.
So where I stand is, I've seen a budget. I've seen the budget that Charlie referred to. I've had questions about that. I think that budget represents monies we don't yet have in hand, and represents a possible liability to the town to have to cover those funds if we want to then accept these grant funds and are awarded those grant funds later. So,
And we already have expenses on this.
and of course, there's the expenses, which we don't have an estimate yet for. So, I think the way to, lead this is not to do it in a vacuum, but is to ensure that people get their say in, and that we're involved and the process is followed.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Where have you not been involved, where have you not been involved in the process?
By process, I mean that you are taking actions based on a vote of this board that authorizes you to take those actions.
This vote of this resolution allows me to move forward and get quotes for the work.
I understand, but
That's
I'm-
all it does. You keep conflating that you are like signing over like all of the money, and there's no money that moves here.
We have earmarked ARPA money for this that we are
You're
currently.
not going to spend, but all you've said is you're going to, that you will use that ARPA funds if this whole project comes together.
Understood,
That
understood.
hasn't taken,
But it's earmarked. We can't use it for something else. We can't use it for the water district right now. So there are real, like, financial implications that we've signed up to already throughout this process, right? It's not just, we can quit later whenever.
I think that we can ask Ian. I think that if the town board decided tomorrow to pass a resolution to use the 200,000 that we're, going to go for this particular project, that it could go from someplace else. I mean, it could go to something else. It's
Of
not as
course.
if it's etched in stone and can't be changed.
No, but it's pending, it's earmarked for this and it's pending that. It's pending the resolution.
I think those funds are required by the county as part of the grant application.
Well, no, it is, exactly. But again, we aren't assigning an award letter. Like, all we're doing is accepting these contingencies. So, it's really hard, guys. I'm trying all I can, but it'll be hard for me to, I just want to be really honest. It will be very hard for me to walk away from this knowing that like half the board is not, clearly seems not to be in favor, which is completely fine. But for me to then go and put a lot, and my board, to put a ton of work in just trying to get us to the next place. We would love to be able to walk away going, we want you to go and see if you can make this happen. We understand we can get off this train anytime in the next, 3 months.
And again, there's no money involved in this. There's no money spent by agreeing to these contingencies, which it sounds like we want them to be there anyway.
Accepting first of all, the resolution says that we fully understand that the contingencies must be satisfied prior to any award of the grant funds. So, there's a chance that we spend 75% of the money needed to address the contingencies and then can't or won't
Well, the
do the
subdivision is
rest.
an example of that.
Say again?
The subdivision would be an example of that.
But I don't think that, let me stop. I think that's a good point, that's a false flag, in that you are just letting us go and get quotes for all this work. I mean, if the quotes come in at $400,000, then clearly you're going to say, and I will too, well, this project is untenable, right? And we're done. Like, that's it.
As will the
None of
county.
this is like rocket science. It's bringing contractors in to bid work for a project and getting an attorney to tell us how much it's going to be to subdivide it.
But we can't go any further without agreeing to the contingencies, and I don't see why that's a problem. We're not saying we will cure them. We're saying that we understand what we have to do to get grant money.
Oh, okay, look, we can, fundamentally, if this is a purchase of a piece of land for affordable housing, there's a single-family house on there. I've asked numerous questions about our draft MOU with HRH. I've expressed my very serious concern about the town being a landlord in this situation. I think that's a really, really, really big risk. And so we are taking all these steps, we're doing all this, we're doing a big rush, and we're not having these conversations in public, and I think that that's a problem. And, if there's a way for us to, the timeline here is deeply unfortunate.
I don't think that property is going to sit around forever, so I don't think it's deeply unfortunate. I think the town board has to say, we're serious about this opportunity, or we're not. One or the other.
What's the opportunity?
The opportunity is to resolve, once and for all, in my opinion, a parcel of land that could be used for wastewater treatment facility.
But
I agree that there's an affordable housing, and that's the way we get into this parcel, but I think this seller is not going to be around forever, right? He's going to do something with that parcel. And the town should make a decision and stop, dragging Charlie and the Amenia Housing Board all over the map, chasing after whatever scraps of money he can scrap together to move this needle forward. I think if you were serious about it, we would appoint Victoria to go and negotiate with Charlie, with the owner, and make sure we know what those contingencies are on the property owner's point of view. We know what the county wants from us. We know the town has some concerns, but what are the property owners' make or break? Is a subdivision, is he willing to do this for us?
Right.
Really explore some of those opportunities so they come back to us on the 15th or whenever our next town board meeting is, hopefully before the 15th. And we can resolve some of the questions that are outstanding.
And she brings up a real good point, and I feel like I'm circling the wagons here on this one again, I apologize, but we're all willing to make a huge commitment here. When I say we, I mean the town board, you, the taxpayers, et cetera. But what commitment has the seller made to us to sell this? What contract do we have? Is he going to do it? Is he going to take what we offer and negotiate with somebody else?
Well, Brad, we can't do any of that unless you let us move forward. I'm sorry, I have Damien telling me and Victoria that we shouldn't be talking to this person, and I have you telling me that we should have a contract with him at a set term and price.
Sorry, that's
what's
very
happening here.
Yeah. You are the supervisor. I think you should take the lead and say, I am willing to go and find out if there are any...
That's simply what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's it.
Why don't we just have Victoria? I make a motion that we authorize
No,
Victoria.
we're in the middle of a motion, sorry.
We can't.
We're in the middle of a motion?
Yes,
Okay.
we are.
Okay.
Or
Now,
Brad,
what-
who's actually a realtor.
I think Brad would be great. Brad's also on the wastewater committee. Brad's aware of everything that's going on here, and I think he would bring really great...
Am I kind of volunteering here unwillingly?
Yes.
You're being nominated enthusiastically.
So we could make it contingent upon Brad.
I don't mind
Going
making that
to-
commitment.
There is I think everybody needs to be clear about the cost and the risk of this. I mean, one of the contingencies says if the town can demonstrate funding to cover all rehabilitation costs upon taking title of the property, then the county can further offer the following and move forward with executing a grant agreement. At or before closing, the town must have the property subdivided to apportion the acreages that we use for affordable housing from the portion that will remain vacant to be explored for use as a water treatment facility. The county would still be willing to keep the award at $150,000 despite the property being subdivided, so long as the $150,000 is used solely for the affordable housing portion. This is affordable housing grant. It's not a wastewater grant. I
Exactly,
realize
Victoria.
that the wastewater is on the property, but
This is a win-win for Amenia. This works just as affordable housing, but in addition to that, we would be able to secure land for wastewater. This is just accepting those contingencies. If we're not able to meet those contingencies, the project ends. Why is that so hard for everyone to understand? We're not committing anything to that. We're just saying we understand what the county wants from us before we can get a grant.
I appreciate that perspective. In my opinion, it does not work for affordable housing because I think that the town being a landlord in this kind of situation is, that's not the way that I feel that the town is best suited to address the incredibly important and real affordable housing problem we have in this town. I used to be on the Affordable Housing Board's liaison. I, for 2 years, encouraged the board to look at incentives for ADUs and look at other, but being the landlord of a single-family home is not, I would want an off-ramp from that.
Well, I think there is. We could say that unless we can get a not-for-profit to pay for the, what?
We could say that, and the county said that, basically, they wanted to see the MOU with HRH,
housing, right.
which was not reviewed by our council, and which I had fundamental problems with. We were still the owner. We were basically just hiring a management
it
company.
hasn't been
and-
signed.
I know it hasn't been signed. I'm just like, that is the current plan that we've been given, right?
That's
And
in that's in the housing board. I've seen it over and over again that Hudson River Housing is the appropriate entity to work with the town of
I think we
Amenia.
amended,
This is not a
that
surprise.
language in the,
We have always referenced Hudson River Housing, and they have been a very good partner for a lot of towns in this community. We're the only town that doesn't have any affordable housing in this surrounding area. And I thought, well, it was just because we're a small municipality. Kent has stuff. Sharon has stuff. Salisbury has stuff. They're all way ahead of us.
I mean, I think HRH is actually building something in town right now, right?
All of those towns
We
that
don't
you,
have it yet.
and Vicki, all the towns that you just mentioned, all actually are landlords of their own properties.
Oh, really?
Yes.
They don't use the
And Hudson River Housing is working on a development here. The housing board is working hand in hand with them.
I mean, if we had an agreement with HRH to sell off this subdivided parcel, I'd be happy as a client.
Yeah.
I mean,
You have to,
But how does that impact the contingencies? I mean, again, we're
It's-
just saying that, I mean, that's town stuff which we can deal with. The county is just saying that these are contingencies the county has before they will let us move ahead with a grant. We want the same things. We want to know that we can afford to pay for all these things, but
100%. But by going down this path,
Yes.
it's not without, we're agreeing, by accepting this award, which is what
Right.
the county is asking us to do, we are agreeing to address the contingencies, some of which, I mean, immediately upon accepting the grant, we are agreeing to sign up for this work, this cost and effort, in service of a housing board parcel that, I personally don't agree. I do agree that it's a great lot for wastewater, 100%. But and I, trust me, I get it. It's a little, I won't characterize it. The process we've come up with here to acquire this parcel is certainly creative. I just don't agree with the end, the current plan, as far as I've seen it, for how to manage that housing.
I just want to correct that this is not committing us to this grant. This is getting us to the next step, which is...
I didn't say it was.
But you did, and I want to correct that, because it is not that. It's not committing us to that. It is agreeing to their contingencies.
The county is asking that the town board pass a resolution to accept the grant funding with contingencies as noted in this revised award letter, and that we provide that copy to them by May 15th.
Yes, and if you cannot meet any one or more of those contingencies, you don't move forward with the
I
project.
get that, but it's going to cost us money to meet those contingencies.
How is it costing you? Are you paying me to go to that property multiple times and meet and create RFPs? I mean, no, you're not. It costs you nothing.
I'm not, Charlie, I'm happy to have you speak, but
As to the letter and the contingencies, because there seems to be some need for clarification there. The contingencies are in steps. The county's requesting a commitment from the town saying, yes, we're willing to go the mile on that. The first contingency that is up to bat would be the risk assessment of lead and asbestos. Once that is conducted, whatever comes back, if there's nothing, great. If there is something, now you would have to,
is that free?
no, there would be a cost for those, for that. So yes, by approving this, you would be incurring a cost for the risk assessment.
but there is money in the Housing Trust Fund.
So the next step would then be the remediation, and what, we would have to get quotes for the remediation.
The work doesn't have to be done until we close. But yes, the next thing is quotes for all of the work that's on the...
Including everything on the HQS report there. So at that point, there would have to be a full budget presented, and the town would, at that point, have to be willing to commit whatever funds come out of that. And that would have to be, according to the terms here, properly bid. And then once you've gotten that budget together, it would have to be approved by the board and then approved by the county. Then at that point, we would have to do, the owner would then subdivide at that point. And there would probably be some additional items that would have to happen at that point that aren't necessarily expressed in here. But as far as the county is concerned, once they approve that, the owner would have to subdivide, and then you could start really discussing a negotiated price on what this is. So there is steps built in here, but you would be incurring costs right off the bat. First thing is the risk assessment.
So there is money in the Housing Trust Fund. We have not authorized the use of that money for anything related to this. If we did do that, if somebody made that motion and it passed, I would be, the motion said that we would solely use Housing Trust money to address the items here on the contingency.
Well, there actually is money in the budget to address the items in the contingencies.
There's money in Charlie's budget, right?
Right. And we have to verify all those numbers by actually talking to contractors.
But, okay, Damien, you make a really good point. And we would follow for the risk assessment, which would be, there's a couple of outfits that do it all, and there's a couple that do one of either the asbestos or the lead paint. And the town board, I would imagine, would approach it the same way we did with the survey and with the appraisal, which is that I would get several quotes, or the town, I think actually Ian and Victoria got several quotes for that, and then the town board chose one and passed a resolution authorizing the supervisor to enter into a contract with them. And that money was paid out of the Housing Trust Fund. And that's what we did with this parcel. But that would be after this. Like, first we have to pass this resolution to get us to that next step.
No. What I'm saying is I want assurance by vote of the town board that any money that we use to address the contingencies here will come from the Housing Trust prior to agreeing to address these contingencies. Does that make sense?
There might not be enough in there to cover it.
Well, the only contingency, the first thing that we would be doing, as Ian said, is the first on the list, which is the risk assessment.
Right.
Which is a couple of $1,000s.
Well, actually, it's subdivision, too.
Well, but
No, but you first-
there are many steps to make this work. And if we get, all wound up at each step, it just makes it that much harder to make anything happen.
I think the way to avoid getting wound up at each step, and the way to avoid me going to the store and getting asked questions about 74 Lake Amelia Road and what the hell is going on over there, is for us to have a much more transparent process about how this all plays out. So not do it back and forth over snippy emails like we did this week, but
Really?
yeah, myself included.
I know, but I didn't hit you.
That's fine. It's hard to do over email.
Find a way.
Can I get a new seat? But if the rationale and justification for this is made far more public, and we have an opportunity to discuss it and vote on it and authorize certain steps to be taken, and I can be sure that, and I'm sure this is a ridiculous question, and I'm sure the answer is yes, but has the housing board voted to approve the pursuit of this parcel?
Yes, I mean, it is the thing that we're working on.
No,
But I have to say,
no.
you brought this up in your email, Damien.
Yeah.
The town board does not need any of its committees to recommend what it does. If that were the case, you could have never increased the water rates, because you didn't have a water committee.
I never
So-
made that representation.
You did. You said it several times in your emails when...
I said that you as chair have to have the majority consensus of your committee or your board before you come to us and you make a representation that this is what the
Oh,
housing
no, yes,
board-
we had, but I'm clarifying that...
I've just heard from certain members that sometimes maybe that doesn't happen, and so
certain members?
it's hearsay, and I'm not going to assign any
Is it
credit.
hearsay or you made it up?
It's hearsay, and the easiest way to address that is to just make sure you have your minutes and your votes in order, and that's all.
All of our minutes are supplied
They're all on the
to...
website.
That's fantastic. So if that process is followed and we have these conversations during these meetings on TV and everybody's on the same page, then I think we'll be better off, as opposed to feeling as though we're being led into having to make decisions along the lines of
Well,
what
no,
happened
we
with
can
the
just
ARPA
give up
funds.
on ever having a wastewater
We're not
system.
giving up.
Yes,
Stop.
you are, because there's
Leo, you're being
limited amounts
super
of federal
dramatic.
money. I'm being super dramatic because I'm so frustrated with you. You missed half the meetings this year. Of course you didn't hear other discussions that took place.
I'm fully up to speed on my
Mm-hmm.
email and all the meetings. That's not an issue.
The application
I don't
for this
think
community
that- excuse me,
development block
Charlie,
grant was held in
Charlie.
a public hearing in November.
Charlie, give me a second, please. I am not this isn't about me. What I'm saying.
Sure.
Yeah, Charlie. What?
Go ahead, Damien.
What we need to do is to do this more publicly.
You do realize that the board voted and had a discussion to proceed for the community development block grant, to go ahead with the application. And then the Dutchess County moved this along and gave us certain contingencies so that they were sure that we had enough money to do this. And that we were not-
100%. I do recall that.
Yeah.
We and the order of the vote and that order of discussion is what I'm objecting to, which I did by email, and we don't have to rehash that here. That's my guidance. That's my recommendation back to the housing board is that, and I also put this in my email, but I want a couple of things in order to continue to support this, aside from what I just said, which is that if we're going to spend money addressing these contingencies, I want to be sure that they're coming from the housing trust. But I want to be sure that your boards and committees are empowering you with a consensus vote to make these
I've been at
decisions.
those votes, Damien.
I understand. There's nothing controversial about this.
There apparently is. I
Why?
mean, because you're delaying things by saying
I'm not
that
delaying-
you don't trust the fact that they voted on it when I've seen the votes and when the votes are noted in the minutes, which are online. What you are always futzing with this during meetings. Why don't you just look that up now? But I mean, I think more to the point, I'd like to call a vote because I'm just like, I'm tired of this. And if we don't have the votes to move this ahead, then,
Yeah, I think we should just let
So-
it go if you can't be comfortable with contingencies. If you're not comfortable with contingencies as laid out here, then I think we really can't go forward because life is full of contingencies. So
What is?
it is.
Sure, my personal life is full of
Sorry,
contingencies.
it's full of contingencies.
But
So
when
one step at a time.
I'm making a decision
Here's
based
the
on
decision.
the use of other people's money, it's not.
We're not using,
there's no
we're not
money involved
using.
in
Stop.
this.
Hey, we are absolutely agreeing to
Please.
take on cost by agreeing to address these contingencies.
Yes.
Right?
But it
So
all has to be
don't say
part of
there's
a
no
budget,
money. Stop
because
saying
it all
that.
has to be, it isn't, because it all has to be part of a budget. For Dutchess County to approve this, all of that stuff has to be included in the budget.
I realize that. There's funds in that budget coming from grants that we haven't even applied for and we haven't been awarded yet.
What are you talking about? Are you talking about the $15,000?
Yes.
Which I said I would personally cover
I
if it
appreciate
comes to
that.
that.
It's very generous, but, the town is on the hook to backstop these, and so I will vote to move this forward. But what I want separately or beforehand is a vote to use housing trust fund
So why
money.
can't you just
to
add a
address-
contingency to the contingencies? Add another contingency that the funds.
Well,
Life-
okay,
life is
create a
full of
motion then.
To
Let me-
get-
let
We
me
can't do that. No, we
You
can't.
can't add one more
We can't,
contingency.
No, we
no,
can't.
but we could have a second one that just says that no funds from the Housing Trust Fund, assuming that Charlie representing the Housing Board, yes.
You could make a motion to amend the current
Yeah.
resolution that is before us, that's been voted on and seconded. You could make a motion to amend that, to add that clause.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second
If
it.
there's a second, there would have to be a vote.
Which one?
We're making
That-
a.
No, Damien?
Sorry.
Who wants credit for that? There's.
No, I seconded it. That's
You
all.
both
She made the
seconded
motion.
Both did at the
You
same
both
time.
did
It's
exact,
fine.
it's hard to hear, Damien.
Leo and I are in sync on this.
Wow, I'm gonna also note that, no. I'm just-
Please.
Okay.
Can we just get this motion? I'm listening and I'm not getting the entire motion. Could you make it again?
Do you want to spell?
So the motion is simply to amend the motion on the table to add the contingency that the money to be used
To address the contingencies.
to address the, what do we need to do? The
Housing Trust Fund?
amelioration
The contingencies comes from the Housing Trust Fund.
comes from the Housing Trust Fund.
Without knowing how much is in it?
And there's no amount and no
That's a
max.
good question.
Well, how do we find that out? I mean, if we
There's-
don't have
there's-
this in by May
there's-
15th, we lose the opportunity to get $150,000, Victoria, which you always said you're so happy when you can find money.
I think there's enough money in the, in
Just the first contingency, which is the risk assessment, because that's the.
is the risk assessment, that's right.
That's-
That's what I wanted to
Let's just
say.
do that.
The
Yeah,
Just the
so-
risk
so the-
assessment.
risk assessment was the
So
word.
the issue is, number one, do we know how much money is in the account?
Yes,
It's
there's
about-
$35,000.
35,000.
35.
Plenty,
35,000.
plenty.
Okay, so you would have to, you would make an amendment to the resolved paragraphs indicating that the Housing Trust Fund would be used up to a maximum of, how much is in there?
Call it a maximum of $20,000 for this risk assessment. I mean, that's plenty of money for the risk assessment. That's all we're doing here, right?
To a maximum of $20,000 to conduct the risk assessments for lead and asbestos.
It's just that?
I think we want the whole,
He said just the one.
No,
just want to
it's,
do the asbestos and
No,
the
just
lead?
right now.
Well, that's the only thing, that's the first contingency. If we're not
Okay.
able to,
Okay,
so,
that.
We
so,
can't get past one.
so what,
I mean, if,
so if the lead and asbestos assessment comes back and there is significant lead or asbestos, the overall cost of remediation of this project could be significantly accelerated beyond what the board is willing
contingency
to
says
invest.
including lead-based paint and asbestos risk assessment and completion of the remediation.
Right, but we don't know, we can't find out how much the remediation is until we have someone come and test the paint for lead and the pipes
Right.
for asbestos.
And at
But
that,
but it's a contingency.
it is, but at that point, we could get out, right? Like, if we know it's too expensive, if it's
If it-
not.
yes, if it
at
comes
that point,
back,
we
then
just say to
it's-
the county,
we're done.
it's not. I'm comfortable with that. I'm,
That was made by Doyle, seconded by Damian.
okay.
Supervisor Prodi?
No?
Councilpersons Doyle?
Yes.
Gutierrez?
yes.
Blackman?
Yes.
Revillard?
Yes.
And then we have the original motion.
Which got seconded already, so I
Yes,
think
it
you're
was
just on a roll.
Leo and Vicky. Just so everybody knows, now we're taking a roll on the resolution that was read.
As amended.
As amended.
Supervisor Prodi?
No?
Councilpersons Doyle?
Yes.
Gutierrez?
Yes.
Blackman?
Yes.
Revillard?
Yes.
Charlie, I do have the name of the company with it out there. Maybe.
You're out of order.
Sorry.
You can take care of that after the meeting.
Are there other matters?
Yes. Oh, we had Ian look at the Wassaic property. Ian? We had Ian look at the Wassaic property, and he recommended that we do a title search. Is that something that the board wants to
I'll make a
move
motion
forward on that?
to
I'll second.
authorize.
Discussion?
I can, yeah, I
Discussion.
can add a little input on.
Because you were getting estimates.
Yes, so, I did put in an email my efforts that I've tried to locate the or some documentation indicating ownership on that. Up to my abilities of searching county records, I was unable to come to any conclusion. I have reached out to I initially reached out to two title companies, one of which didn't really respond at all. The other responded with a fairly detailed description of the implications and the difficulties with trying to determine the ownership on this. This is not a normal title search. This is it's a difficult title search. It involves getting into the old railroad beds and the ownership of the railways, and those maps aren't readily available. It's not run-of-the-mill. And we did receive one quote for that. I have requested two others, which I have not yet received at this point. So
do we need to just make a motion
Well, I think-
if that's what we want to continue?
what I can do,
Do the title search?
what I can do is get the rest of the quotes, and then I can present them to the board, and then I can do a resolution, and the board can make a decision.
What was the initial quote?
750 to 1250.
Okay.
And some of that's variable because of what they have to go, what they have to go through with the records.
Well, I think since there is a desire to do some improvements in that park, that 750 to 1250 seems a reasonable amount of money to invest or risk on doing so.
I have just a dumb question perhaps, but isn't possession like 90% of the law? And the fact that we have kept it managed, we've used it as a town accessory, and that our right-of-way extends X number of feet into that area, and that just doesn't
Not necessarily.
carry any weight. If we
Potentially.
plowed it for 50, 200 years, would that make any difference?
Potentially.
Potentially.
Okay.
Can
But-
I say,
but facts matter.
just because
so-
I'm a huge railroad nerd,
Yeah.
but Metro North just bought that right-of-way from Pennsylvania Central in 2018. I would imagine that when they went through that, they probably had to refresh the paperwork and do a lot of investigating.
Perhaps, but when you look at
Probably
like
just
on
bought it.
parcel access,
Yeah, whatever.
which is not
No, never
accurate.
accurate.
Right, but entertain me here for a moment. When you look at the portion that is purchased, which isn't necessarily accurate on parcel access, it doesn't even cover this area. So it's questionable what that is, and whether, my guess is this property was owned by the railroad at some point in time. It was deemed abandoned.
was a
It
station.
goes into some sort of abandonment process. How that transpires after that, not sure. Is it part of the road? There is a road there, but that road, I'd be willing to bet a significant amount of money is a road by use.
Would we
So
be
there
better
are
off just
underlying ownerships on that.
Asking Metro North if they want to just give it to us?
We don't know that they own it.
We know they have a right-of-way, we just don't know
Right
where.
away.
I
That,
think
they
that-
can't give us something they don't
I
own.
think the title search is the best way.
I'm just
At
saying,
least
they
we'll
might
know.
know whether they own it or not. They
A
could
title
give
search
them
is gonna, and if there is something like that, that would be picked up on the title search.
Okay.
I mean, that's what they do. They would pull that apart, and they would be able to indicate
And
those
then-
records.
And then we'll know.
Yeah, that's worth $750 at least.
We shouldn't be disclosing the prices at this point, because
Oh,
we're still
really?
obtaining
Well, we're
quotes.
just going to do it,
Still
right?
getting quotes.
Well, you gave us a range,
Yeah.
so we don't know.
There's a range.
yet.
We can approve a range.
So,
So what I'll do is I'll obtain, like I said, I have other quotes out there, and when I get the quotes, I can submit them to the board.
so you moved to authorize him to get quotes?
To.
I've already obtained,
done that.
I've already
Yeah.
obtained the quotes. What,
Are we in the middle of a vote, or? are
no, no, I think that we're obtaining quotes pursuant to the procurement policy.
Right.
Before you make a motion on this, we need to get the quotes, and then the board will make a decision on the quotes, and then we can,
So, Vicki, what
make
you
a
were
resolution, accept the
describing is a
contract.
term called adverse possession,
Yeah,
which is costly in a lawsuit, but
The laws on adverse possession have
And they never
significantly
win.
changed recently.
Yeah,
The laws on a prescriptive easement might be something that might be
Eminent
more relevant to
domain.
the situation.
all these things. Yeah.
When you're dealing with the railroad, there's
Yeah.
going to be,
So do we need to do a motion?
I don't think there's anything to do for this board right now
Okay.
until I get
Continue.
the quotes, and then I'll submit the quotes to the board. The
Okay.
board will have an opportunity to review them, and I'll have a resolution ready for
Damien, you rescinded your
next week.
motion.
I rescind my motion.
Thank you.
Okay, the other thing I have for other matters is Habitat for Humanity of Dutchess County has a mobile home replacement program. Habitat for Humanity of Dutchess County has been awarded funds from the New York State Housing Trust Fund Corporation to assist families and individuals with replacement of deteriorated manufactured homes in Dutchess County. The home must be free of liens and must be on land they own. The program will fund 5 qualified homeowners of selected sites throughout the county. Qualifications: applicants will be processed on a first-come, first-served basis. Participants must meet the following qualifications. The unit must be in a dilapidated condition, defined as decayed, deteriorated, or fallen into partial ruin, creating health and safety concerns. Both the unit and the land must be owned by the resident and free of liens. The resident must live in the unit as their primary residence. The resident must have a gross annual income of less than 80% of area median income adjusted for household size. Resident must be willing and able to meet with a HUD financial counselor. For more information, please contact us at 845-297-0806. There are packets with more information on the table as you come into the town hall. So I would encourage anyone who fits this category to take advantage of this program.
Under other matters, wastewater specifically, we had a presentation of a proposal from LaBerge, and I believe there was another one too. The wastewater committee recommended hiring LaBerge to do the map plan and report, and LaBerge recommended a lawyer, and I think the committee got other names. So we know the cost for LaBerge and the lawyer information we'd have next time, but we discussed it, but we didn't move or resolve to go ahead with the report, map plan and report. Now that money is in the budget that has been in our 2023 budget. There's money allocated to the next steps on wastewater. And if I'm correct, Charlie, there's money to do both of those things within the budget line.
But
So-
you would have to have the property?
I'm sorry?
But you would have to have the property before you did the map plan and report?
No, you would do it based on a particular property, but you don't have to actually own it. I mean, we did a map plan and report before based on the Kornicki property, but we didn't own it.
But the bulk of it is actually just defining the perimeter of the district. And because without that, it's not possible to take a next step, which is to apply for funding. And the committee's been doing outreach to people within the proposed district. Other people have asked to be in the district, so they have been checking to see how much interest there is as to whether it
So
ought to be
you would like
expanded
Adam,
slightly. Excuse me?
Ian, would you like Ian to do a resolution to,
To
because,
approve? Yeah.
yes, I believe you got 2 quotes. And anyone else that you asked who didn't give you a quote, you need to give that information to Ian as well.
Are we talking about the groundwater testing? Is that? what we're
No,
talking about?
that's
separate.
different.
This is
Map plan
about,
report.
this is about the map
This
plan
is
report,
LaBerge.
which is the next step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked about this at the last meeting.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Right.
So, but we didn't prepare a resolution, so I just would like to move that along if we can.
I have some concerns that I would express to the board on this. The map plan report it's not just moving this step down the road. Is it the next step? Yes. How we're funding this project, we have a feasibility study, how we're funding this project. If you're going out to bond, or is it going to require any bond funds, I'm not aware of how that's being funded at all, because I personally haven't been involved with the wastewater, so you're asking me to draft a resolution for a map plan and report. If you are going to do such an action, depending on how it's funded, my recommendation, my strong recommendation, is that this board incorporate bond counsel immediately. Bond counsel, if this is going to be bonded in any way, shape, or form, bond counsel should be involved yesterday.
But you're talking about the actual, the map plan and report doesn't need bonding, does it?
No, the map plan and report does not, because there's money in the budget for it.
But we're so far out.
Yep, but in order for, these are very, very technical proceedings when you do this, particularly with bonding on these projects. If you are going to go out to bond for this, there needs to be specific language in these resolutions now, and they have to be laid out in accordance with certain provisions in order for you to take these, what are now townwide costs, and incorporate them into district costs once the district is formed. So this board, I'm not quite sure how this district is being formed. I'm not sure how it's being funded. I'm not sure how, to me, there's a lot of questions that I haven't seen presented to the board, or at least to me. The board hasn't asked me to look at any of this. I am not in a position to even advise you on it because there's no information for me on it. So, generically speaking, this board should know or have some idea on how this project is going to get completed, funded, before we start authorizing further expenses on a project that may or may not ever be feasible to complete.
We've been doing this for 60 years, trying to move the needle forward. We've done other map plan reports. There is no way one can forecast. We don't have the property, we don't have a parcel, we don't have a district form, we don't yet. I mean, there's a whole, I mean, to look down the crystal ball that far down is insane. I don't think
not
you
really.
can do that.
I know there was an estimate on the
Yeah, there was an engineer's report.
engineer's
that
report,
had a
so,
budget
which there
that
was the one presentation here. The numbers I heard on that were, I think it was like approximately $21 million to do the project. I'm not sure how many units they're going to be in the district itself.
We don't know the funding, we don't
Well,
know the
well,
property, we don't know.
correct, there's a feasibility on that, so.
If I may quickly, the map plan and report is, and this town has actually had 3 map plan and reports. There was never any bonding that was done at that particular phase because it's way
I'm not
before it.
recommending bonding.
Also, there was not
I'm
any,
not
there was not
recommending
any attorney related to bonding that was related to that as well. The map plan and report is a document under Article 12, the New York law, that lays out what the parameters of the district are. It lists all of the parcels that are in the district. It defines the flow rate and what the projected user fees will be. It also presents what the overall budget will be. And it is prepared by an engineer along with an attorney, and we have reached out to multiple attorneys to get proposals, which the wastewater committee this evening voted to move one forward to you, which I will do in the next couple of days.
My advice to this board, we have bond counsel. My advice to this board would be to consult bond counsel immediately. Every district I've ever been involved with, I've done with our bond counsel in other towns.
They're not forming it yet.
It's not about the formation of it. It's about having the proper language in your resolutions now as you proceed down the line.
But we're hiring an engineer and eventually will be an attorney. We're not, so the resolution's hiring, for example, Ty and Bond to do the map planning report for Millerton Northeast had nothing related to bonding, and they weren't consulted. But
Well, Ian, I mean, maybe more to the point, the estimate that Ty and Bond did was based on there being no bond funding and no grant funding. So those numbers worked without,
I know nothing about it, and as far as I know, this board has not been presented with any of that either. So I cannot advise the board because I haven't been part of that. So you're asking me to draft a resolution to which I have no information on.
Maybe this will kill two birds with one stone here, but in my email earlier today, I did ask if we could request that the wastewater committee come and present an update on the project, comprehensive update on the project and their current status, their plan to organize the district, details about this parcel. And I think that would provide a lot of justification. I mean, how much is the LaBerge? Is 30,000?
27,000.
That's a lot of money to spend on a parcel that we don't have yet, right? And it's not, I recognize that it's also looking at the boundaries of the district and everything, but all those assumptions are based on the fact that we're going to get this parcel. Is not anything new that I'm saying. I said the exact same thing last meeting. And so I would suggest that we wait until we have better clarity on this parcel
but you do
before
remember,
spending.
oh my God. But
What?
you do remember that Ty and Bond presented all these numbers and gave us, we had copies of their report. This was a long time ago.
No, I know. A lot of stuff's happened since then. And so I think the public would benefit from a presentation, a public hearing or something. I think that'd be great.
Okay, so I don't think anything has changed since their report was written.
That's my recommendation. So
Okay.
I think it would be beneficial and educational for folks out there just to hear where the wastewater committee's at. That's all.
Can I just ask, just so that we, Brad being empowered by the board, maybe a motion or something, so that he can ideally work with myself and maybe Ian
No.
in negotiating. I'm sorry?
No.
No what?
I'm asking the board if they could, because there was that discussion and it was never clarified, and I know it's been a sticking
There
point.
needs to be a resolution.
Okay, can we get a resolution
I'm sorry, for what?
for Brad to represent the town board and to go with Charlie, who's been talking to the owner for a year and a half, and talk about the price for the
And
parcel?
the conditions, price
You
and
want to authorize
conditions.
me to make the negotiation?
I think the board should authorize, if they're going to do that, then there should be some sort of motion for that.
I'll make
In-
that
You need
motion.
more than a motion, you need a resolution. I already spoke to legal counsel.
Well, I think it should be a resolution as well.
At the Association of Towns. We
I-
No, we're not going to do it until we have a resolution in place.
Okay, so can we request a resolution for the next, to be presented at the next meeting? Or do we have to move on that? Do we have to make a motion and vote on that?
And this
I
is just a
move that
resolution
we-
authorizing Brad to negotiate
yes.
in conjunction with Charlie of the housing.
Yes, I move that we appoint Brad I'm sorry. I move
To
that
do a
we
resolution.
do a resolution to appoint Brad to represent the town board and to work with Charlie in negotiating a price with the owner of the property at 74.
So you're making a resolution to do a resolution?
What?
No, you don't need a
No, I'm
resolution
not
now. We're
making
gonna do
a
a resolution.
motion.
It's fine.
I started making a motion.
I don't think the motion is necessary for that. The board just asked me to prepare a resolution authorizing.
Just want
Brad
to be clear.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, any,
We got a motion.
No, he rescinded it because we didn't need it.
Oh, he never
Ian
said
said
it was
we
never
didn't.
second. You don't need to do it.
We didn't need to do it.
Great.
Okay.
Are we good?
town board comments?
Oh,
Anyone have town board comments?
I think we had a lot of town board
Oh,
comments.
we definitely did, but this gives us an extra opportunity.
I have a comment. I have passed out a proposed resolution for authorizing the submission of a grant application to the Hudson River Valley Greenway Compact Planning Grant Program. We had a comprehensive plan update, comprehensive plan review committee meeting on Tuesday, just 2 days ago, and it became very clear to our comprehensive plan committee that to move forward on the changes and update that they've been asked to do for the comprehensive plan, it would facilitate our work tremendously if we were able to hire a certified planner to help us in our work. So we looked at grant applications, and there is the Greenway Compact. We are a Greenway Compact community. And so at that meeting, we just started filling out and seeing how far we can go with that. I have it 99% done. But one of the contingencies for submitting that application is to have a resolution, but it can come after you submit the application. So I have provided what I thought was a reasonable resolution, and if you would like to vote on that tonight, I can.
No, I don't believe it was
update it.
appropriate.
Okay, so I would ask that we
I mean, we can go ahead and do it next time if we can do it after.
We can
But
submit
if
it
we're
after.
going to do it and we really want to get the funds, we need to do it exactly as it should be.
Okay, there is in fact a sample resolution, so I'll have that ready for the next one that they will
Well,
accept.
you can go ahead and send it to Ian,
I have sent it to him and to the rest of the town board.
so you have that. You can,
You sent it by email, or?
I sent it by email to
Okay.
you at 6:20 PM.
as long as, if we can do it after, but
Yeah,
if we want
we
to
can
get
do
the
that.
funds, we need to make sure we
Okay.
cross our Ts and dot our Is.
So I will just mention that there is, where the money would come from, because there is a required match, is I'm suggesting that it be taken out of 8020.4 Planning CE, which has $5,000 in it, which I believe, according to our budget worksheets, was supposed to be for, it's called Planning Climate Smart, and we didn't need that this year, but we left in 5,000. I believe that is the history of that, but if you want to look further into that,
Well, did you look in your budget book?
this is from the budget book. And we still have the 5,000 as of
Okay.
March 31st, unless somebody snuck in a
Yeah,
$5,000 bill.
I'll check on that. But
Okay.
And I'll let Ian know
Okay,
exactly what it is. Because I
Okay,
want to
it's
make
in the
sure that the
resolution.
resolution is absolutely correct.
okay. Does anybody have any questions about how or anything about that application and how we would be utilizing the services of a certified planner?
Well, we had someone
Ashley?
when we did the original comprehensive plan, we had gotten grants and we had assistance from
Yes,
from
the Hudson
people.
River Greenway did provide money towards the 2007 update. We got money from the Dutchess County Planning. I think it is we shouldn't just have our volunteers knocking themselves out if there is money to do it professionally.
Well, it's
and to help us.
absolutely needed.
I think so.
If we want to go forward correctly.
Thank you. That's all I have.
I don't have anything other than some good news from NYSEG. We were going back and forth with them, and I was thinking after the conversation about the highway garage and the solar panels. The question I put out to them was, the town has multiple meters. We have a meter here at Town Hall, water, we have lighting districts, all that stuff. If we are generating excess solar capacity on the garage, can we offset the usage at other meters? And their response was yes. And so if we designate the highway garage as the main account, we would have the ability to create 10 satellite accounts under the town's name. And NYSEG would work with us to move those meters.
Great.
So like we could basically not pay an electric bill if we can get enough panels on that roof. And so we could talk about that when they come. in, but I was pleased to learn that. That's all I have.
Okay, and I promise to just mention that the Amenia Garden Club is having their garden tour, which unfortunately is named Real Gardens of Amenia. But it's going to be on Saturday, July 8th from 10 to 2, and all the information is on their website, which is ameniagardens.com. And there are going to be 6 gardens shown.
And you can buy your tickets online. I started,
Ooh.
but I didn't finish. I couldn't remember my PayPal password, but it is a great opportunity to be able to buy in advance.
Yes, because they haven't had a tour in 3 years because of COVID, so they're very excited.
Brad?
Anything?
Nope, I'm good.
Victoria?
Making notes.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
9:17. Doyle, she beat you, Damien.
Time to go.
Supervisor Brody? Yes. Councilperson Doyle?
Yes.
Gutierrez?
Yes.
Blackman?
Yes.
Revlon?
Yes.